and welcome to another informational video by Mariah Jean Fit. This video is focused on structure and routine for your fitness and nutrition journey. This can also apply to many things in your life. We're finding now more than ever, we are time poor. Everybody is time poor. It seems like nobody can fit everything they want to into a week. And we have seen with the technology revolution that yes, there are more convenient ways of doing things and accessing things than ever. But how come we are running out of time to achieve everything in the day, especially in our family dynamics, etc.? A lot of these apps and technological advances have been designed for convenience. You know, whether we look back 10, 20 years time, we found that yes, people were stressed and busy, but probably not as time poor. So we're looking at how do we fit in our fitness, our nutrition, our meal prep. It seems super overwhelming when you first start a fitness journey, thinking to yourself, I can barely fit in my current structure and lifestyle the way it is. How do I think I'm going to implement these changes without these time availabilities anymore? You know, if you're feeling like you're burning the candle at both ends, you get home from work and you're exhausted and you think, where am I going to fit this in? Where am I going to train? Where am I going to exercise? Where am I going to do meal prep? So this episode is going to focus on structure, routine, how to implement that and how that becomes your new lifestyle and how you become more natural in those ways and how we can swap our time around as a commodity and start to treat your time like it is precious, incredibly precious, and knowing when the right time to do particular things in your life is and when you need to finish up with that and start the next task or the next commitment for the day or the week. So the first thing I recommend to clients who are struggling to implement structure and routine, especially if I've already given them a training plan, I've already given them macros, I've already given them all the tools to succeed, and they're still thinking, you know what, I don't have time to do this. You've already got that little bit of a mind block in your head saying, I don't have time for this. By saying that and speaking that out loud, you're basically saying that this is not a priority to me and that everything else in the week is a higher priority. Now, we know that there are the bare basics that need to get done in a week. Things like attending your job, going into university, doing study if you're doing study, getting the kids ready for school, getting chores done, you know, all of these things that are basic necessities, having a shower daily, making sure that you're showering and the kids are showering as well. And so it seems like that takes up a lot of time. And it does, absolutely. There's not a lot of time left over after all the tasks have been taken care of. We need to look at things in reverse when it comes to planning our time around things like our sleep and things like our nutrition and our fitness, in that the way that you treat your body, so your fitness, your nutrition and your sleep, okay, and your recovery and your walks and everything like that is the foundation. That is where it all begins. That is where you should be protecting that as the one thing that doesn't move, right? So we have to have what's called non-negotiables in our life. So we pop that up there, non-negotiables. Now, when you make non-negotiables, it means that your structure and routine and lifestyle cannot function without these non-negotiables. And that's your water intake, your sleep, your regular exercise, and your nutrition, which means that you put this on the high priority list, right? It's up the top. It's the thing that gets done before everything else. So before you look at working a 14, 15, 16-hour day, when are you going to get sleep in? And how do you protect that sleep block? If you know you're going to work a really long day, you've got your roster for the week ahead, you think, okay, I've got a 16-hour shift coming up. We must plan in advance before that to protect our sleep on that day so that we are not lumping in all these tasks after that 16-hour shift and then not giving ourselves the adequate sleep that we need. So it's all about planning. Now, planning might seem tedious. It might seem like you're double handling. It might seem like, well, hold on, I could just do that on the fly. I could just decide that as we go. The issue with that is that the human mind is distracted very easily from a task. So you could be focusing on doing like what I'm doing today. I could do a video and notification comes through on my phone, and then that distracts me away from what I'm doing. Every time we set out to do something, unless we write it down, it does not become a solid plan. It's just a thought inside your mind. You have literally thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of thoughts a day. Now, how many of those could you recall right now off the top of your head? Probably a handful of them. And how many times are you finding that you're forgetting about things? How many times are you finding that you're missing bill payments, or you're disorganized, you're feeling stressed, you're feeling like you're not able to handle your workload or your life commitment? Now, this can mean sometimes that we overcommit ourselves to things and that we don't have a very good perception of what we can actually logically fit into our week. So if we're wanting to achieve something physically and for our health and for our nutrition, we must treat it like it is the foundations of what we do in our life, and that everything else we do other than that comes after it. That includes our work, that includes our family. It must sound crazy me saying this, but it includes everything else. And the reason why is because if we are not good to ourselves, if we do not treat ourselves well, we end up in that same position which a lot of people come to me in, which is the self-resentment, which is, resenting their lifestyle, feeling like they just feel like crap all the time, that they're not giving back to themselves, and we go around in circles. So to fix that, we have to start with the fundamentals being that you must take care of, protect your sleep, protect your nutrition, protect your exercise. It is not something that is an afterthought. So that's the first part of structuring your fitness and nutrition, is actually treating it as something that is a very high priority in your life, and that the other things can come afterwards. And trust me, they can fit in and slot in quite easily once you've got all these other things done. So this means that you have to have a plan of what your week looks like ahead, at least, if not 2 to 3 weeks in advance. If you take the time in a small amount of period of time off that you might have, some child-free time, or you might have some time by yourself, or you might have a day off where you said to yourself, I just want to watch Netflix all day. The time that you would have used to watch a movie, you could plan 3 weeks in advance what you're doing with your life, including down to the T of which days you'll be doing your meal prep, which days you'll be able to fit in doing your washing, what days you'll be going to coffee with your friend, and which days you'll be training. Now, structure is like building the frame to a building. We can't build the building without the structure, right? It has nothing to stand on. So the structure is the beginnings of the building, and then we can actually go in and then we can add the bricks and mortar. A planner. We knew that when we were younger, it was encouraged to have a diary at school. If you're a person who likes to write things down and you find you look at that daily, if you look at a diary daily, if you are a person who has a written diary and you need that written diary to go by, and you find that that is your structure and that is your discipline, then sure, a written diary is a fantastic option for planning and for structure. Don't try and force yourself to follow a written diary if you can't. I am a person who changes my plans as I go on sometimes, and I don't like having to rub things out and rewrite them and rub things out and rewrite them. So I like to have a digital diary whereby I keep it in my notes, in my note planner, and I'll show you in a second what that looks like. But basically I'm going to pop up a screenshot here of what it looks like. And I've got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now I have that listed out, and I will actually plug in the things that I'm doing on those days, including my gym workout, right? Including my appointments, including Zoom calls, including any sorts of study that I need to do, including my social media content creation, including my meal prep, including my washing on particular days. So I pop that up there, and this is what one of my weeks looks like, right? So this is just a sample of what a week looks like. It looks pretty basic. Now, in the beginning, you're probably going to have to put time slots beside things, right? You're going to have to say, this is the time I start this. This is the time I start this. If this doesn't work for you, and this style of planning doesn't work for you, you can put this in your calendar in your phone. If you like to have a calendar so you can look at your day like that, you can download apps, which are organizing apps. There are so many out there that are free versions. You can literally Google organizing app and download an app that works for you, whether you like colors, whatever it looks like. But you must plug these things in. And you start planning your week by saying, these are the days I'm going to commit to my training. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, whatever your training plan looks like. And plan your rest days around days that you know are going to be pretty hectic. If you're working a really long shift, or you've got kids sports on the weekend, and you know that you've notoriously got just a really big Saturday all the time, number one, you can always look at changing that, or number two, and shuffling things around and getting some help. Or number two, you can look at taking a rest day on a day that you know is going to be particularly taxing for your family or your social needs. And so that's what we look at planning our training around. And we plug it into the days, right? Now we know we've got a Trainerized calendar if you're using Trainerized for your training plan. We've got that to go by already, but this just gives us a snapshot of what the week looks like so that you can then access this every day. You know that this is the plan to go by. This is something to have in front of you. It's like walking on a path and someone is putting a light on the path for you to see in front of you. You don't know where you're going unless you have a light. Same with goals. You know, it's very difficult to achieve something unless you set a goal, unless you say, I want to achieve this, and you vocalize that to somebody and you're accountable for it. We are less likely to achieve something if it stays up here and we do not speak about it. We don't vocalize it, we don't write it down. It is proven. This is why companies plan. This is why governments plan. This is why everybody plans everything. Anyone successful in anything always plans. Some things are done spontaneously quite well, but for the most part, something that you want to become successful at, and especially habitual changes, habit changing, is something that we must plan for until it becomes second nature. So if you go to the gym at the same time every day, and it's something that you want to become habitual, eventually you will. You might still keep it in your planner, but you'll know, okay, do you know what? It's 4:30, 5 o'clock, or it's 9 a.m. Time to go to the gym. That's my gym time. That's my training time. Or time to go and work out in my home gym. Whatever it looks like though, repetition and structure is the way to succeed because the human mind actually really enjoys having structure. We like knowing, don't we? We like knowing what's coming up. We like knowing dates and times and events. We actually like having routine and structure. So we need that for literally everything. That's why I always tell my clients, plan your diary in advance, your MyFitnessPal diary. Don't be anxious about it. Spend 10 minutes a day planning a diary for tomorrow. And you're going to be entering in what you're going to enter in on the fly anyway, right? So if you do it beforehand and you know what you're going to have, that's one less thing you have to worry about and that you can get on with your day. Set reminders is another way to improve your routine and structure. Setting reminders, I find some people, they might not look at a diary like this, or they might look at it and then they might forget again about something. If you know that every day you need to do something at a certain time, set an alarm on your phone. If it's a silent alarm, if it's a loud alarm, if you can have one, but set reminders. I have for particular events in my life, because I know that I forget about social events and things like that on weekends, I'll put them in my calendar and I will set a reminder a week before, and I'll set a reminder a day before the event to say, hey, you've got that event coming up. Now what I do is then, if I haven't already put it into my little diary, my planner, I will take it from my calendar and pop it in there so I can see that coming up for the next week. Oh, that's right, on Saturday I've got that event with so-and-so. I can see it right in front of me when I check my diary every day. If you make a plan, you keep reminding yourself of the things that you want to do. So it's like putting that light on the path in front of you. That's right, that's where I'm going. Otherwise, you could be led astray, off the path, right? Or not know where you're going and be really scared and make silly decisions, or just stand still and do nothing at all. So we have to look at structure and routine as something that is incredibly good for our minds, incredibly good for our lifestyle, and incredibly good for changing habits and creating habits. Time blocking is another recommendation I have for clients. I find that more often than not, it's probably the same people over and over again that are saying to me, I just don't have enough time. Everything's so busy and I'm always rushing everywhere and I just don't have the time to do it. The issue is that we're not making time for the things that matter, and we're making more time for things that don't. If you were to have a look on your phone in your time settings, if you have a look at your, I think there's a setting in there that can tell you how much time you've spent on one app in your phone. Now, if I'm telling you this, there's going to be one. There's going to be at least one social media app, or there's going to be, it might be YouTube, or it might be Instagram, it might be Facebook, it might be a game that you play. How much time you're spending on that in a week. And it's mind-blowing, but if you're spending over an hour a day on a particular app that isn't work-related, that isn't related to your exercise, isn't related to something that's on your list of things to do, you are being heavily distracted by something that is taxing and taking your time. And therefore, you're taking away from things that are very valuable, like your sleep, like your exercise, like your nutrition planning, like your meal prep. Now, meal prep itself doesn't actually take that long. People often tell me, meal prep is, meal prep, it's just, I can't be bothered meal prepping. But they would happily sit down and watch 3 episodes of a Netflix series instead. What if I told you you could do both of those things at once? What if I told you you could do your meal prep, set the Netflix up on your phone, put it in the kitchen and listen to it while you're doing meal prep? There is a way to still enjoy and consume the things that we like consuming and that we like doing, but doing it in a way where we are not burning up hours and hours of our time. If you find you're a person who's on social media quite a lot, you might need to limit yourself with that. So time blocking means, okay, in the morning when I get up, one of the last things you should be doing is touching your phone straight away. I'm pretty bad for it. I will grab mine straight away and check my emails. Sometimes I won't. Sometimes I will have my coffee. I'll get up and I'll walk around a little bit, take some time outside, and then I will dive into my emails. I give myself a limit of 1 hour in the morning on social media, replying to emails, replying to clients, getting back to everybody. Communications is a thing in the morning I spend an hour doing. I do not scroll. I try not to watch any stories past the ones that are available in front of me, because social media has become quite an addictive platform with dopamine hits that we're getting from it. And I limit myself. So as soon as I know I've spent an hour on communications in the morning and replying to people and getting back to people, email, social media, you name it, the whole thing, that's it. No more for the morning. And I get on with my day. If we time block and we give an appropriateness of amount of time that we give to things, we buy back more time for ourselves. This includes not allowing other people to drain your time and energy, which seems to be more common with women than not, in that we speak, on average, hundreds of more words than what men do daily. So we're quite high in our communications. But it also, in the reverse, can mean that we end up getting stuck talking too much. So if you find that a conversation seems to be never ending with somebody, you can also look at the idea that, okay, how much time have I spent in this space? How much time do I have today? Can I put up boundaries with this person and say, look, do you know what? I don't have the time to finish this conversation. I've just got to head into a meeting, whatever that might be. Can we recap later? Or can we make an appointment? Or, can you call me at a certain time in a couple of days? But setting boundaries is an extension of time blocking. We have to set healthy boundaries with ourselves and with other people, including your children, including your partner, etc., where you have specific times that you spend with them. So it might be that once you've finished work and you've clocked off for the day, you know what, I have to finish work at 5:30, 6 o'clock. There's nothing I can do after this time that's going to be of value, and I'll come back to it in the morning. And you sign out of all your work stuff. You make sure you leave your work phone at work. There is nothing legally saying that you need to be available unless you legally do need to be available outside of hours and you're on call. There's nothing saying you need to be available outside of work hours. And so then you stop work and you actually start your personal life, which can start with things like exercise for yourself or time with your friends and family, whatever that might be at night. And then having a time block for that too. All right, cool. I know it's 8, 9 o'clock. I need to start getting ready for bed. And as we talked about in the sleep episode, having a set bedtime routine. And if you have a set reverse alarms for that, you do. If you have to have a setting on your phone, it says do not disturb after 10 p.m. or 9 p.m., 2 hours before sleep time. That's what you got to do so that you're not getting distracted by your phone. One of the best things I ever did was turn off all notifications on my phone other than text messages and phone calls. And I'm even tempted to turn off those sometimes. It was the best thing I ever did because now I'm no longer distracted away from what I'm doing all the time. And I know that I'm going to go into those apps that I need to go into for the day, but I have specific times that I do that. And I make sure I'm not and sometimes I do. I'm pulled back to them. Sometimes I think, oh gosh, I've wasted an hour and a half on this now and I could just do it all together in the afternoon. But time blocking your communication, time blocking events, not booking too much in. We are, yes, strong, independent women and men, but we don't need to be a hero and book everything in. We don't need to go commit to, that kid's birthday party and then also Saturday soccer and then also, coffee with Karen and then also I'm going to do a pump class because my friend said I should do one. Oh, but then I'm going to go to that Sensi candle night. And all these commitments. Don't feel selfish for not committing to everything. You cannot say yes to everything. And it's okay to say no to some things so that you can give back to yourself. That way, you don't resent your life and your lifestyle and you start to appreciate the time that you are giving to yourself because you were not born to exist for other people. You were born to, yes, enrich your life and yes, help other people along the way, but you must take care of yourself first. You have to put As they say, put the oxygen mask on your face first before you attend to somebody else. That's that age-old saying of making sure that you're okay before you take care of somebody else. So time blocking is massive. I learned about time blocking recently, actually, reading a book called The One Thing. It was wonderful. It really changed my perspective on the way that I manage my time and not feeling guilty for taking time away from some things and for putting more time back into yourself. At minimum, you should be practicing at least 1 to 2 hours of self-care daily. That might look like exercise. It might look like a little bit of meditation plus exercise. And your meal prep is something that you want to happen at a particular day each week. I would recommend a day off. If you don't get a day off in the week, try and do it on a day where you know that you might not be training, on a rest day. But don't put meal prep into a day where you're doing all these other things. You're trying to perform miracles. Make sure that meal prep falls on a day that you have off. And for that to work properly, you're going to have to prepare enough meals to last you until your next day off. So if you don't have a day off for 9 days, you need to do 9 lunches and 9 dinners. Recommended to prep your lunches and dinners at least, because they're the hard ones. They've got veggies, they require cooking, they require preparation. Or make the salads fresh in the morning. That takes 5 minutes. Cook the protein and the carbs together, and you can defrost that and microwave that. But do what works for you. Once you find a routine and a pattern that works for you, don't change it. Don't change it. Keep it for as long as it works until it doesn't. And then you've got to reassess. But also in your planner, in that little planner, I want you to put in there when you're going to plan your planner. Okay? It sounds really counterproductive. It's not. So if you have to do on Sundays, if you have to plan your diary every Sunday, because that's your day off, that's when you got kid-free time. If you have to plan your MyFitnessPal diary and your daily diary, your organizer, all in one go for a whole week in advance, that's what you've got to do. If you find that planning your diary, your MyFitnessPal diary every single night works better because you like to be able to change your meals and what you're planning, sure, and your snacks as you go. But plan in advance for everything that you want to succeed at. Is the general advice. Always plan and see value in planning, because that's how I got to where I got to with my routine. That's how I got to be so meticulous with what I do. I plan everything in my business. I plan what I'm doing in the next 6 months. I plan what I'm doing in the next 3 months, in the next 3 weeks, in the next week. So I have these really big pictures, and I have a smaller version and a smaller version and a smaller version. I bite off little chunks of that as I go with the business. With my own training and my own fitness and nutrition, I have my own little micro goals and big goals as well. And this is the next thing I'll lead you to is set yourself long-term and short-term goals. Goals are great in theory. We can have a goal, and say, I really want to run a marathon, for example. Not that I do, you will never see me running a marathon, but I want to run a marathon as a goal. Now that isn't as simple as clicking your fingers and registering for a marathon and turning up for it. You've got to train. So you've got to have some micro goals around that macro goal. So the macro goal might be that you want to run a marathon in a year from now, which means you're then going to have to engage in the training for that, which means you're then going to have to get a pair of shoes that are good for marathon running. You're going to have to address your nutrition so that your nutrition time is there. You're going to have to address your recovery. You're going to have to probably run a couple of times a week. You're probably going to have to do a little bit of resistance training as well to strengthen the muscles. And so you can see now we've gone from this macro goal to setting micro goals to achieve it. That also means having time limits and amount of time to achieve something. So it might be in 3 to 4 weeks, I'd like to see me here. Now, this doesn't always have to relate to weight loss or fat loss. A lot of people get really focused on, I want to lose 2 kilos in 2 weeks, because from a numbers perspective, that's a very neat number, isn't it? 2 weeks, 2 kilos, it's neat. It makes sense. It doesn't really. Everyone's different. You might lose a couple of 100 grams in a week. You might not. You might go up because you're the week before your period in weight, not in body fat. So there's lots of changes that can happen along the way. You might want to say, I want to get leaner than what I am currently. You might start at a certain body fat percentage. You might start at 30% body fat, and you might want to get down to 25% body fat within a certain time frame. And make it reasonable. Set goals that are achievable. If you set the bar too high, you'll keep disappointing yourself because you can't jump that high just yet. And it's not that you can't ever, but there are realistic goals that are achievable in a certain amount of time, and patience is a part of that process too. If we don't plan our goals and we actually don't put aside that patience with achieving them and understanding that it's just putting in the days over and over again, that the structure and routine very quickly becomes quite, tiresome and boring, because you're not seeing that the bigger picture is made up of those little micro goals towards the macro goal. So writing down your goals, short-term and long-term. If you're going to do long-term goals, make sure you write down the short-term goals required to achieve that long-term goal. If you don't know what they are, speak to a coach, speak to your mentor about that. Speak to us about it. Speak to the people who you know who are going to help you achieve those goals. And it may not be, your goals may change depending on what is reasonable and what is actually feasible for what you're wanting to achieve. Sometimes we think we want to achieve a certain thing, but we actually want to achieve something else. And so we need to be able to communicate that to people and figure that out, brainstorm that with somebody too. If you set yourself a time limit to achieve a goal, sometimes it can be really beneficial and sometimes it can be very triggering. I've found sometimes that people feel like if they have to do something in a certain amount of time, that they get this fear of failure. If you find that you don't, I'm a person who doesn't like feeling like I'm racing the clock. So I like to treat it like it's a part of my life. And so that even if I do have a set amount of time to achieve it, I want to get into a point where it becomes so natural to me that I no longer feel like it's high pressure. I will put a lot of effort into learning how to do something very well in the beginning. And that's another part of structure and routine. Right now, it probably feels really hard. With lots of practice and lots of repetition, eventually it doesn't. Just like anything in life, like learning a language, when we learned to speak English, like learning how to ride a bike, everything was difficult in the beginning. And it was just because that we were curious in the beginning and willing to learn as to how we did. The same applies now to habitual changes and lifestyle changes. You can be a completely different person in a couple of weeks and months and years, as long as you understand that it's going to be quite difficult in the initial phases and also on those really big checkpoints of where you're changing the plan and where you're starting to increase and change those goals. So plan ahead. As I mentioned, keep a digital diary in your phone of everything. If I live in my notes. I've only just recently changed to running my business in spreadsheets, which I'm actually really enjoying because it's not on my phone anymore. But my life, my personal life, and my plan is in my notes. So I have my to-do list daily. I plan that 3 weeks in advance. So all my calendar items go in there. All of my bills are in my calendar, so I know when they're going to come out. A couple of days before, it sends me a notification. I've got to make sure the money's in there. So they're all in there. They're all in my calendar. My payments and my appointments are in my calendar. Things I know that have to be done at a certain time. And then my weekly plan is in my to-do list. It can be different for you. If you want to write your goals down and you think, I'm going to look at them if they're on a whiteboard. I'm going to look at them if I write on my mirror. I'm going to look at them if they're on my phone and my notes. I'm going to look at my background picture. But remember that everything is visual and auditory. So if you have to send yourself a recording and then watch it in a couple of months' time, if you have to write it down in a diary, but think about what works for you, what's worked in the past, and get into a routine of repeating that, of anything you've wanted to achieve in your life, of applying those same set of structures and routines to your life and the time blocking to ensure that you don't get stuck in those cycles and those loops of burning up your time. And a feeling of feeling stressed and short of time is certainly one that's quite addictive. So people can get addicted to this type of lifestyle because they think that that is the only way, and they live their life pretty much from day to day. And it's not, there's nothing glorified about it. You will have much lower levels of anxiety and stress if you change the way that you function in your daily life, and whether you have structure and routine and whether you follow that. So as mentioned, a thought remains a thought until it's been written down. Okay, so again, with everything in life, even with our work, we have to write things down, times, dates, routines, schedules, structures, take screenshots, have filing systems, make sure you've got some order to your life. If you are a person who doesn't, there will be some things that you'll be avoiding, for example, but the more that you create this routine and structure and these systems where you have, you do see people who are quite organized, and you think, how do you do that? Because they've set aside the time to do that in the beginning to make their life easier in the long term. The other point, and the last point I will address before I finish up, is going to be outsource where you can. This is a massive one I find with mums, especially, that they have trouble accepting help from other people. And it's actually probably half the reason why they actually have trouble coming to me as a coach, because they say, it took a lot for me to come and ask you, because I wanted to be able to achieve this myself. And I thought, why don't I know how to do this? And it's just like anything. I've had coaches before. I've had a business coach. I've had a fitness coach myself. I've been in positions where I've asked for help and it's done nothing but help me. I've actually become a stronger person as a result of that, and having people work on my team as well. But outsourcing, there's a couple of things you can outsource. Meal prep you can outsource. You can order meals from YouFoods if you really want to, the high protein version meals. I know Nirvana meals are still operating and they're fantastic. You can order them for meal prep for the week, and they've got high protein versions with veggies in them if you can put aside the money in the budget. And that way you don't have to do meal prep. If you're so time poor, and you'll get that same, you can go and get that order again each week, rotate between 2 different lunches, 2 different dinners. Just make it nice and simple, nice and easy. You might get a red meat and a white meat because you want to get some red meat and iron in there that fits in your calorie range. And then you've only got to do that, and then you can plan your snacks and your breakfast around that. So that's one way of outsourcing. You can outsource your meal prep, your meals. Another way of outsourcing is cleaning. It sounds really odd, but how many hours do you spend cleaning your house a week? And people will think about that and go, and even chores, maybe 2 hours a week, maybe 3. If you were to outsource a couple of those hours, and I've actually done it myself, I had a cleaner. And people think, oh, you must be so well off to be able to afford a cleaner. Cleaners are not expensive. Domestic cleaners are not expensive. You can pay a cleaner $35 to $40 an hour to clean your house for 2 hours. It might be that they do the jobs you don't like. Outsource the jobs you don't like. If you don't like cleaning toilets and cleaning your showers and cleaning your benches and folding your washing, you can outsource it. And you'd be surprised, it's actually not as expensive as you would think. Hire a domestic local cleaner. Because if you do that, you're probably supporting a mum who's running her business from home, if you can look for one in your area, and you're giving back to local business in that way. And you're taking some work off your plate. How wonderful to have someone come in and clean. And that way you don't think about the cleaning, because someone's going to come on a Thursday or someone's going to come on a Saturday to come do 2 hours of cleaning. And if you can't afford that in the budget and you think, what, it's too tight, I can't afford a cleaner, that's totally fine. If you have children, they're wonderful cleaners. So when I was a kid, obviously reluctantly, my mother taught me how to clean. And we have this in us. We have the ability to teach our children. We do not want to resent our lifestyles. So from a young age, I was hanging out my clothes. I was helping out with the dishes, helping dry up the dishes. I was helping my family and contribute to my family. And it was because my mother and my father, my stepfather, because I had a bigger family, it was because they ensured I was a contributing member of the family. They outsourced. They made sure that I was contributing. I don't look back now and think that was awful. I actually think it was a wonderful thing to have the whole family contributing, and I'm glad that I learned from a young age to do chores. And if we've got kids who are reluctant to do their chores, one thing my mother used to do to me to make me do my washing was that it simply wouldn't get done and I'd have no clothes to wear except dirty ones. So that was how things were done, but getting help wherever you can. You'd be surprised how many people actually want to help you and are willing to help you and give back a little bit here and there, and how many things you can actually outsource to other people in your life, even in your career as well. If you run a business yourself, you'd be surprised how many people can help you and are willing to help you in the position that you're in. So that's about it for the little bit of an informational video on structure and routine. If you currently think you've got some great takeaway points from this, make sure you write them down and give yourself a little list. Start your list today. I've got a few in my phone. I've got some life goals, which includes things like my travel and my adventures and things that I'm wanting to do in my life. So that's got its own little note, and people I want to see and catch up with. I've got a to-do list. I've got a grocery and shopping list, which I know in one of the videos I actually talked about completing that and filling out when I run out of a food item in the house. I just pop that into my grocery list. I also do my Woolworths order online, and then it gets delivered. It's a $7 delivery fee. That way I'm not going to the shops and walking up and down the aisles aimlessly. And I can just do a quick reorder where I just reorder very similar things to what I ordered the previous week, which makes it easier to remember what I need. And then I've obviously got a due list for my work. So just stuff that I have to do for programming and stuff like that, which is just in that, direct vicinity of what I'm doing for the day as well. And then I have my whole business on spreadsheets. So my whole business is run, through Google Spreadsheets and Google Docs, and all of the training stuff is run through Trainerize. So this is all, and you're probably thinking this doesn't apply to you, but this is all because without structure and routine, a business can't run. So how can an individual person's life be expected to, succeed and for you to do the things you're wanting to do with your fitness and your nutrition. You will be more successful, far more successful with what you're wanting to achieve if you write it down and you hold yourself accountable for it. And that's part of why I'm your coach and why we do what we do, is because we are holding you accountable for the things that we've set you. Okay, that's it from me. Have a wonderful afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.